So we're talking about design systems. We're going to, oops, here we go. So in this series, it's going to be about 5 series long. I believe it's going to be 5. We're going to build a design system. And the reason I have an asterisk here is that design systems aren't just a UI kit. And what we're going to see here is we're going to see some color schemes, and we're going to see some typography scales, and we're going to see all kinds of components being built as we go along. But it's not going to be a full design system. A design system has to have end-to-end communication between your developers. And actually, here's some voices to consider that you might collaborate with. Your brand team, developers, contractors, your entire team. That's going to be your copywriting team and all this. And so a design system encompasses all of these. It encompasses all of the rules that are established and all of the communication methods that are established between you and your developers, you and your copywriters, and whatever processes you might use. So once again, design systems are not UI kits. So what we're going to be building here is going to be something like a design system, but it's not going to be all the way there. Another thing that we're going to do differently in this stream is that I'm not going to bore you with the mundane details. Let's say we create a component, and then we're going to create another component. Like as designers, a lot of our day is going to be kind of methodical, but also a little bit tedious and boring. It's going to be creating a component and then creating another component that's a lot like that, and then creating another component that's a lot like that. And that can be really tedious, and I don't want to waste all your time. The other thing is we're doing this over the series, a series of 5 series, and it's going to be, a series of 5 streams, and it's going to be about 5 hours. Like, who the heck can create a design system in 5 hours? So we're going to try to do a little bit of magic behind the scenes, and I'm going to show some of the base level thinking and some of like how we create the architecture for a component, or how we create our typography scale. And then I'm going to swoop in, imagine your cooking show where you shove a dish into the oven, and somehow, like magic, it's all of a sudden baked and cooked. You didn't have to wait for that hour. And hopefully what I'm going to be able to do here for you today and here for you over the next series of weeks is make it so that you don't have to wait that hour or those hours. And then at the end of this, the other really cool thing about this is at the end of each, yeah, I'm going to pre-cook the turkey. At the end of each of these streams, we're going to do this thing on Figma community. So first thing I want to do is just show you Figma community. And I'm going to go ahead and type in figma.com/Raji. I am not the whole community. I am just one member. Okay, so this is going to be the link where I'm going to publish. And you can see I've published some things here. So I'm going to just put this in here. If y'all want to follow, if you're not in the community, you can always just come here and visit this and check up and see. Right now our community is still in beta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then publish at the end of each one of these streams. And I don't care what happens. I don't care how far we get in this. I'm just going to publish what we've got, and we can see where we've come. And then as I add more in, behind the scenes, baking my turkey, I'm going to publish into this. And we're just going to keep publishing to this same file over and over and over. And at the end of this, what we're hopefully going to have is like this fully baked design system around our color schemes and this and that. But it's going to be a file that you now know because you've watched the streams, but also you now know how to use, and you can download it. You're familiar with the techniques. You can use it for your own self. It's all free stuff. You can keep it. So hopefully, cross your fingers that we actually make something good at the end of this. No promises. I'm not an expert in every area. There's a lot of areas that we're going to be touching, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in so I can give examples of those areas. But there's going to be a lot of areas like typography and typographical rhythm and spacers and spacer components and the right font sizes to choose for mobile and margins and this and that. And there's so many different things to do. I'm going to give you just a perspective, but there are so many perspectives, and the web is constantly changing and constantly evolving. People are coming up with new cool rules. That's the great thing about this industry that I love, is that it's constantly evolving. So not everything I say is going to be gospel, although if you do think it's gospel, yeah, I'm not going to blame you. But you're definitely very wrong for believing that. All right. So anyways, just so you know, all future live streams are going to be at figma.com/events. We're going to post this live stream. If you don't miss it all, we're going to post it on over there in a few days. Also, if you have any feedback for me, any questions about the stream, there's my email. Please hit me up. Would love to help. And just want to say I'm so happy to see so many of you from all over the place. That's so, so incredibly rad. All right. All right, so this is not, we're not starting with a completed one. This isn't the baked turkey. I just threw down a couple of examples of typography scale. A lot of this stuff was new to me. Some of this stuff still is new to me. There's so many things out there to be considered. So I'm just gonna actually start a new page here, and I'm gonna call it Style Guide. One thing to know too, this is going to be an evolving living document. All design systems should be. These are not static. This is not a print style guide. This is a digital style guide. And so this should absolutely be constantly changing. You should be constantly talking to developers and this and that, and different collaborators on your team. So the first thing I think we're gonna attack here is we are going to try to tackle a typographic scale. We're going to start with type. This is kind of like our base way of communicating. And so we're going to talk about that first. Let me bring up my browser here because I do have quite a few different assets to bring you through. All right, so let's first talk about type scale. I'm not going to go into this like a lecture, but I just kind of want to get a basic idea so that we're all on the same page here. So here's a type scale. It's basically a series of font sizes, and those font sizes are communicating font sizes as well as lots of other things. There's going to be line heights, all kinds of things, typography choices. These things are basically when they're placed next to each other. Notice this bigger one and a smaller one. If you place them next to each other, one will be more obvious than another, right? That's like the reason that we have headers and body type and this and that. Now, a type scale is basically the rhythm of how all of these typefaces work together. So how are these typefaces going to be in relation to each other? And there's a lot of different ways that you might approach that. So one easy way, and I think when I first started designing, we'll just take this out here so we're not distracted by that. Let's just place this in here. Let's go with a classic like 16. Yeah, and we'll just get rid of all of this. I'm gonna get rid of my letter spacing and just make it expand. Okay, so here we go. This is just our typical body text. So what I wanna do here, if I want to create a header, I can put a header like this, and maybe I'm gonna wanna make that a little bit bigger, right? Shouldn't just be the same size. So maybe I'm gonna like double that. Sure, let's see how that looks. Let's move that up there. That's not bad. Maybe I'm gonna go ahead and change this to like a medium weight font. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So already we've got this relationship between these two typefaces, right? We've got not two typefaces, but two font size choices and all of our font weights and all that. But the question really becomes like, how do we, when I first started doing my design systems, like when I did one at Dribble and prior, I didn't know how to do it. Like, do I just keep doubling? Maybe that's the way to do it. And maybe I just, okay, that's the biggest one. That's like a title. This is like a header level 1. That's like a body font. Okay, now do I take this body font here and then just take it, since I'm doubling everything, maybe I just divide this by 2. But that's an 8-point font. So that's really, really tiny. And for almost all interfaces, that's actually way too small. All right, so the question then becomes like, how do we create a type scale? Like, what's the right rhythm? And go figure, there are a lot of smart humans out there that have figured out lots of different ways of thinking about this. So we're not gonna spend too long on this. Once again, this isn't a lecture, but let's just take a little trip through some links that I found. So here's a material design type system here, and it lets you know that sort of that rhythm and that relationship between the typography choices here, headline 1, headline 2, headline 3. Okay, these are the sizes that you're going to have. All right, what the heck is a golden ratio? Oh, it's this thing that we see in nature, and it's actually a mathematical quantity, and it describes like a lot of things in nature. It's like this very pleasing thing, and you may have heard about this a lot, but like maybe we use the golden ratio to tell us how they're related to each other. We have a lot of history. Let me see if I can find this one, which is pretty good. This one's really good. And I'm gonna go ahead and drop this into the chat. Somebody said that my keyboard, my camera thumbnail's over that. So let me see if I can get these things. and position, maybe on the bottom for y'all. There you go. All right, so this is a good link to look at. This kind of explains the typographic scale and kind of the history of it, and this one book, The Elements of Typographic Style, that sort of explains and is a little bit of the Bible for how like type should work in relationship to each other. And it tells a lot of history of like how we kind of adapted that from books to a digital medium and how we chose those font sizes. And there's lots of good reading on this. And a lot of the relationship that they talk about is based off of like music tones and using musical ratios. So you can see here that there's different applications. Like, what if we did it with this tritonic scale or a tetratonic scale or a pentatonic scale? All things I know nothing about. But I did kind of latch onto this idea of the golden diatonic scale, which is the golden ratio, using that magic natural number. So we're going to just take a stab at that. Once again, there's lots of scholarship out there on lots of different methods for doing this, but we're going to do a little bit simpler of a design system. So we're not going to need a ton of different numbers, but we're going to go ahead and do this here, this golden diatonic scale thing. I'll apply that in Figma. Tons of articles out there. I'm just going to drop these here for y'all just to be able to read through this material. It's really enlightening to me, but it talks about how we use these type scales. And then it talks about how like developers might use those things and how we multiply these numbers and create these harmonizing sort of scales. So you can actually see in web design. Now my background is a web designer, so I know a lot about this stuff. This is kind of how I started, not in design. So I know absolutely. Oh, I'm actually just talking to all panelists and attendees. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry about that, everyone. I did not even honor my own advice. Oh, I feel bad. I feel real bad. All right, I'm just going to drop this material design one as well. These were really good links for me to get through. I really think it's worth putting the time in to go through these. I feel like everything kind of starts with type and then moves out from there. And it's not just drawing boxes and all that. There's a lot of good reason behind all of these things. All right, so we're going to stop there. We're going to go ahead and just start working on this type scale. So let's jump on in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead for ease, just work with the typeface of Work Sans. And we're going to use that for all of our typography. Now, there's some scholarship out there around like maybe when you're using body copy, use serif. Serif's a little easier to read. That's great. Remember, this is an evolving system. We can come back to it. But I'm going to jump right in on this. So right here, I actually copied the number for the golden ratio. And there it is. I know it's beautiful. Look at it. We'll go ahead and shorten it to like 1.62. We'll just round that off. Now, once again, we're going to start with a base of, and I'm just going to delete all these items. We're going to start with a base here of 16 pixel font. A lot of people say to start at 18, but 16 is kind of like that base font where they think it's like readable for most people. You don't want to go a lot smaller than this. Otherwise, it's going to become illegible for people. So this will be our body size. So if we want to, we can go ahead and create this into be a style. We can edit it later if we'd like. But right now, I'm just going to not create a style yet and start creating my type scale. Now, there's tools that can automate this and do this, but I'm just going to explain the basis of this. All right, I'm going to duplicate this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this magic number here that we see in nature and everywhere. And hopefully, since we are based in nature, we'll also be like, hey, this pleases me. And so what I'm going to do is just multiply this number here by that number, that 1.62. Now I'm going to always start with 16 again, and I'm going to multiply it twice again. So I'm going to go times 1.62 times 1.62. Boom. That's going to create my next level up in the scale. Now we haven't checked out font weight or anything like that. That's okay. And lastly, I'm going to start again with this base one. This is actually how the basis of front-end development works. When you're trying to scale up and down fonts, you'll use that base unit, or they call it a root EM or a rem, and then you'll multiply it by a scale factor to get your header level 1, header level 2 titles and all that. All right, so I'm going to go times 1.62 I hope we can build a lot here, but wow, there's a lot of material to cover. I actually have to do it 3 times. All right, now this is a big one. This will be probably our title. Now, since I love, and everybody knows this about me, that I love working in 8s, so that would be something like this: 8, 16, 32, 64. A lot of times in digital design, even though these numbers are like 68.02, they do a lot of rounding on these things. That way, you're not rendering at half pixels or getting anything blurry. It's also kind of a weird number to work with these really like partial, what they call them is decimal numbers or floating point numbers. So I'm going to just try to adhere to this system as closely as I can, and maybe with some in-between values that are all based in like 2s. So we're going to say like multiples of 2 or 4. So maybe we'll allow things like 8, 12, 16, 24, and so on, like 48, stuff like that. I don't know if we'll go as high as 128. That's a really massive wonkin font size, but hey. All right, so this one I might just actually make it go to 64. Now you don't have to adjust these. Like with Retina displays, things are a lot better than they used to be, but I'm gonna see what I can do to get close to this. Maybe this is a 40. That's gonna be a multiple of 8. And then this one's gonna be probably that 24. Kind of get closer to this. We did see a little alluding to that on one of those images on those websites where they showed the red letters. I think it's over here somewhere. We'll show it later. All right, and then this one's 24, and then this one's gonna be 16. And then we need, if we have a body font, we're gonna probably want something a little smaller. So remember, once we get below 16, we get below that 16 number, it's gonna be a little bit more illegible. But what do we have closest to that? Well, let's see if this magic number yields us anything. We can divide it by 1.62 if we'd like. And whew, oh boy, we're sitting at rounded like a 10. So I think we're gonna have to like manually adjust the system just a bit because that's just so tiny. So maybe our small body font will be this. Now I'm just gonna have this is my little scratch board over here. And I'm just gonna type in some things that I know I need. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the design system is that you don't have to create, and I talked with my fellow designer advocate buddy, Tom Lowry, he's awesome. We talked about this in length, and what we don't wanna do here is that we don't wanna create, we're not creating a UI kit. We are quite literally creating a design system for an app that we're going to concept. So what we wanna do is just create what we need. And since it's a living, breathing document, we're gonna slowly add on as we need. Like Facebook didn't create what it is now. They created something way different day one, and they've slowly evolved and iterated it. This is digital product design. It's a little bit different. All right, so right now I know we're gonna need like a title. Like this is maybe gonna be for a big title for a page. That could also be known as a header level 1. You may have seen that in HTML. And then we're going to need different headers. We'll do an H2, an H3. When I first started web design, it was like H3, H4, H5, H6. I'm not going to do all that. We don't need to do all that. That is a lot. What we can also create is we're going to need a body, like a body copy. That's going to be a bit different. I'm going to, hold on. I have a small pet hair on my mouse that is not enabling me to do anything. Please pray to the pet hair gods. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna just crank this thing down a little bit just because it's a note thing. All right, this is good. What else are we gonna need in here? Feel free to chat. What else are we gonna need in the chat for our body, for like typography systems? We've created a little type scale here. I'm happy with that. I think we're gonna need a small. We're gonna need something like a small copy. Remember those things that are like maybe under a field and it says like, it's instructional. You know, you need to do this, or you put in the wrong password or something. We'll need a small copy for that. We're probably gonna need a button text. Like what does button text look like? Maybe like a pre-title. That's gonna be like a little bit of text above the title, maybe indicating a section or something like that. Now what else do we need? we're going to probably need a subtitle, right? Like these three are titles. So these are all a form of a title. Titles for different sections. You've seen this in like Dropbox paper. Think about that as a good example. Dropbox paper has these different headers that you can choose, but they don't have a ton of them. They just have a few. We're probably going to need to know what a strong text might look like, or like bold. And is there a difference between that and emphasized text? And emphasized, we know to be right now as like an italic text. What does that look like? It doesn't always have to be italic. It could have like a little squiggle under it or something. All right, so now we've got titles. We're definitely going to need like a subtitle, right? Like what if you've got a blog post or an article, it's got a big title, it's got kind of like a subtitle, which is probably big. A subtitle might even be known as, maybe we can double up as like a big copy. All right, I'm going to pause for a second just in case there's any questions. I haven't really looked at the Q&A, but I want to make sure I answer those and then move on.
Hi, Raji. The latest question is from teaching. He said, is it best practice to create a system that works for both native and web, or should they be separate? A lot of these styles look like they could be shared.
That's such a hard question to answer because the web is like ever evolving and shaping. And the second that you like draw a line in the sand and say, oh yeah, you should create separate systems because they're for separate devices, then somebody comes out with this amazing blog post about how and why you should be able to do both, and here's how you do it. Personally, I like to try to see if I can use the same system for them. A lot of times you can have notes or developer notes on like what translates to what. So in this case, if we're actually expressing a header level 1 as a 64, there may not 64 point size. There may not be, like that may just be enormous for native. So what we might want to do for that is do something a little bit different and create like a translation guide. Like, hey, anytime you're going to be working with titles here, we'll create a mobile style guide for that. And we'll probably try to address that as we move on to create like a mobile variant of these things and create that relationship.
Cool. We have a few questions about shortcuts. Is there a shortcut to double or half font sizes?
Not that I know of, which is why I'm clumsily over in here, just like hacking in this field. The shortcut I know is like just the division, like using math in the field. So that'd be like divided by 2, boom, there's half. The other thing is you can use nudge values in here. So I know that my nudge value is set at 8. So if I hold shift, I can actually just do units like increments of 8. So I can just go down, but not that I know of. No shortcut for that.
Somebody wants to know, or Dennis wants to know, what are you pressing to duplicate your text boxes?
Ooh, yeah, of course. I'll do that and I'll show you a trick. All right, so let's say we've got this, we want to duplicate it. I can either hold Option and drag it down to here. Now the cool thing about that is Figma remembers that it's right here, and if I now hit Command D to duplicate, it duplicates like that all the way down, and it just maintains that distance, that offset. The other thing you can just do is simply hit Command D, but notice you don't know where it went. Well, it's right on top of it. So I typically start with Alt dragging, and then I'll just doop, doop, doop.
Awesome. One more question in that line, and then we'll move on. Brad's curious, how are you showing pressed keys on the screencast?
Oh, Brad, yeah, there's this cool little app. It's right here. It is, I think it's called Keystroke Pro by Martin Lexow. Very, very worth it. Also, let me see if I can actually grab a link to it. No links here. Just look for it. Keystroke Pro, worth paying the developer for. Cool little app. It also honors light and dark mode.
Cool. Raji, I will continue looking for questions. You can keep going.
All right, so remember it's a living, breathing system. So we're gonna blaze through this really fast, and I'm just gonna start creating some styles out of these and move on to our next example. So we wanna make sure we have this covered. So this one here, I'm gonna create a style out of this one. Now I want this to be probably bold for my headers. A lot of this you're just gonna be judging by your eye and just whether you like it or not. Another thing is if it's bigger, you might be able to get away with like scrunching in those letters a little bit, affecting the kerning a little bit negatively here, because you don't Well, there's a reason for it, but I won't go into it fully. In those articles, there's reasonings for why you can actually do this. Whereas when it gets smaller, you're actually better. The spaces between are so microscopic that you might need to space out things when they get smaller. And you might be able to space inward, pull those letters tighter when you're actually on a larger bit of type here. So, all right, what do we got? We just want to make sure we make everything we have here. I think this is going to be good for a start. Let's just make sure we have them covered. One, we've got this H1. This is going to be our H2. Boom. I'm going to make that bold as well. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do -1. Now, it might not maintain the right relationship to a -1 pixel because that's a fixed value. So you might be able to do something like this, -0.3% or -3%. You can put it in a percent value and see how that works for you. Maybe it's 2%. A couple of those articles also talk about what's a decent amount that you can negatively kern typefaces. So I'm going to go with this -2 amount. I kind of like this -2%. I think it works. All right, and this is probably going to be our header level 3. Great. Now remember that this might also be good for big copy, and this is going to be subtitle. So I'm actually going to do 2 versions of this one. One here, I'm going to set it to bold, set it to our -2. And that's going to be our H3. But this one's going to be our subtitle or big copy, which we're going to probably have to affect the line height on. And then moving down, we need a strong one. Now, this is our 16. This is our base of our system where everything sort of is related to this one base. So this will be our body copy. And then this here will be our, maybe our strong. So we can just bold it. If we're cool with our bold being that, cool, but bold doesn't have to mean bold. It can mean bold is maybe semi-bold. So we'll just go bold for ease. We'll skip emphasize for now. And we have the body copy already covered. We have the small here. Now, what does a button look like? We're going to stick, I think I have an idea around this. So I think we'll do the pre-title really quick. So we're going to grab this 16 and we're going to try something. We're going to do our divide by 1.62. Great. Now I'm going to use this text uppercase. The cool thing about this is that it doesn't just only make it uppercase in the moment. It actually, when you type into it a lowercase letter, it just basically means always uppercase, which is exactly how I want it. I don't care what people put into this. I want it to be uppercase. Now on this one, we're going to go ahead and space it out a bit. We're getting really small here. And at really small values like this, we're going to have to do something to make it more legible. We're going to have to make it probably semi-bold or bold, and then we're going to have to space it out, track it out a little bit so that we can get, here, let's do 2% here. Yeah, that's not bad. Track it out a little bit so that space between the letters, they don't kind of glob together. So now we've got all of these things. This is going to be our pre-title, and I might actually make the button text the same as that. It might be a little too small. Now let's go ahead and start converting these into Figma styles. So that's pretty easy here. What we're going to do is go to this little style widget thing here, and we're just going to hit plus. And what are we going to name this? We're going to name this title or H1. The beauty of this, if we want to, is we can actually just put title. We can put H1 here. We can also put H1 in the notes. We can do all kinds of things there. But if we see here, we've got descriptions. We can put header level 1. This is going to be something as we move through the stream. And as we move through this series, this is going to be something we're going to lean back on a lot, using this description area to communicate to our developers the very things that they need to know about this. All right. So we're going to move through this pretty quick as well. So we're just going to create the style. Boom. I'm going to put H2. I think we'll just keep this maybe capitalized right there. I'm just going to move this here. Boom. H3. I do want to move along to get through as much as I can with you. All right, now I didn't remember what this one was, which I'm a bad boy for that, but I believe this is going to be our subtitle. And then this is our base, this is our body. We're going to have to come back and edit this, I know it, but for now, we can put in body. Woohoo! What happened? What did I do? Body. Oh, woohoo! I don't know what happened. Okay, this is going to be our bold text. bold or strong. All right, now this is going to be our small. This is our small copy. Small. This keeps happening to me, and I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Let's make sure we've got it here. Maybe I hit something weird. Create style. All right. Now this is going to be our pre-title. Now what we're doing here, if you're not familiar with this, what we're doing here is we're creating styles. These are called shared styles. And this way, this is sort of the basis of how Figma communicates like things that are linked. So if I ever wanted to take this and turn this whole thing into like body copy, I could just put in body copy here. And then if I ever change that, this is the beauty of how these things work. If I was like, you know what, we got word in that we're gonna need to go 18, it's too illegible, boom, 18. It actually reflects and updates across your entire design system. This can be many, many, many documents. So this is beautiful. This keeps us all in sync. All right, so what do we do here? We did a pre-title. All right, on this one, we're gonna go ahead and take a stab at it. Now we haven't created the buttons yet, but we're just gonna go ahead and create essentially a placeholder for this. Ah, I know what happened. I did that. Search is new. Over here, search is new. And I'm not used to it, but it is very cool. All right, so we're gonna call this the button text. Great, so we're all good here. We're not gonna care right now about whether or not our type scale is all set in black. And the reason is right now, these are linked, these styles are linked just into all of these type qualities, but it's not linked to the color. The colors can be a different system, and we're gonna go ahead and jump into that next. Okay, so we've done a good job. Now I'm gonna start organizing this. You know, think turkey in the oven. I'm going to start organizing this in my spare time. I'm gonna start doing something like this with it. And I'm gonna be basically designing a style guide like this. I'm gonna create some notes and things around this so that it's very easy. Just creating those styles is not enough. Remember, a design system is not a UI kit. So I'm gonna do things like this, create examples of how you might use that. And this is gonna be for a button. Here's when to use this. Here's when not to use this. So we're gonna create that level of communication so that more people know about how to do this. You can see here's how Material did it. There's a lot of different ways to do this. All right, so jumping back into this, we've essentially done the first portion of our segment here, which is just getting that type scale down. One thing I want to call attention to, because I don't think we'll revisit typography for a while, is body copy. So let's just get a bunch of text in here, and I will just take some paragraph text, and you'll see why, really quickly, why I need to give this example. Well, this is very long. All right, I should have actually made it shorter before I did this. Now, the problem with this right here is the line height. This is not, all the lines are so scrunched together that it's hard to track, and it's hard to figure out what line is what. It's easy to get lost. And so those articles that I shared with you, they're gonna talk about something called line height. And line height is different. Sort of what we would want for a header is very different than what we would want for body copy. As this body copy gets longer and longer, we need to make this line height a bit higher. And those articles talk a lot about a range from about 1.2 to 1.45. Now this is kind of based on preference. It's also based off the typeface that you choose. So the way that we're gonna take care of that is we're gonna come back into this style, and we're gonna change, notice this thing here that you can't really see anything. We're gonna change this. We can use a percentage, which is awesome, because if this changes, then this changes with it. Now, you might also see that there's some people will just like hard code those things in. So we've got 20 here. A pixel, 20 would be like, 16 divided by 20. Oh, sorry, other way around, 20 divided by 16. That's gonna be a 1.25 line height. Now, I don't like working in these actual pixels. I wanna work in a percentage based. So I wanna set that at maybe like what the article said, like maybe 140% line height. And you can even see here in this example that this really breathes a lot better. It's easier to read. So body copy is really important to make sure that you style it correctly. That way your developers aren't implementing this thing all scrunched together. So let's just make sure that we save that, and I'm sure we did. There it is, 140%. We're working with a linked style here. So we're done. We're all done with that. We're going to scoot past this and we're going to move on to colors. Now, colors are going to be something, it's a really big topic as well. The setup for this is that you might need to talk to your, will need to talk to your brand team. You're going to need to talk to your brand designer. Maybe you branded it yourself. You're going to want to create those color schemes. So I never created one. I don't know. What will this thing even be? I have no clue. So I went ahead and just threw some thoughts here. And we're going to bring it over into this file here. And I'm actually just going to create another frame around this. So we kind of save this and it looks cooler. We're going to just call this type scale. This is all going to change, iterate, grow, be so much better once I make it so much better. And as we progress through the screen. So I love these vibrant, awesome colors. Ooh, I actually had another one in here and I think it didn't paste in the frame. And I would love for y'all to give me some feedback on this. I kind of wanted to create this bouncy, fun, vibrant, lots of different colors, like a purple, a blue. Some of these colors are kind of screaming at me, but I liked the spirit of this for brand colors. Now, if we had a logo created for us, we would probably be able to jump into that, but we don't. Right now, we're just doing this without a logo, so we'll just have to do our best. All right, so I know that we have some questions. So what I'm going to do is fast track this really quickly into a few apps that can help you with this stuff. And then I'll do the rest off stream and show you what I came up with, and then show you a couple of methods for creating little components for creating color swatches like this. So first of all, let's just say we commit to this here. This is like our color scheme. Maybe we'll bring in a few of these other interesting colors here. If you're ever working, let's say we have a brand color and it's just this one pink. Let's say we start with that, and that's kind of like our identifying color. We have a lot of really cool plugins, and I'm going to go ahead and share a few in the chat with you. One I have here is called Color Palettes. You might want to check that out. Let's see if we can bring that up, if that's the right one for us right now. Yeah, so this is one that you can look at just a bunch of different color palettes and just insert them right in. Maybe you're just trying to figure it out. Maybe you are the brand designer. You're trying to figure out what are cool palettes that you can work with. So go ahead and look at these color palettes here. I see somebody that mentioned Ally plugin for color contrast. Absolutely. We'll talk color contrast later, especially when we're talking about once we're taking these colors and then trying to lay type on top of them and how readable are they or not. I've got a bunch for you, like 3 different ones. Stark's a good one. Ally's good. Contrast is very good too. Contrast works with images. Yeah, great shares, y'all. Y'all are doing great. Really pat yourself on the back. So this is a really cool plugin, color palettes that you can use. This is a kind of simplistic approach. Hey, maybe you're just looking and exploring as a side project or something like that. Or you're just starting up your new app and you kind of want to look at what you have. Here's one thing that you could do. Another thing that you can do, say this is your brand color, is that, let me see what other ones I have here. I believe it's Color Designer. This one's really cool. So this can give you different tints and shades of your main brand color. So say we're making a button, we know this is our brand pink, but we have to put text on top of that and we're really struggling with getting good accessibility. We can also maybe find different tints and shades of that here. We can just develop out a bunch of different tints and shades of that color. You can also find like color harmonies. So maybe there's like another different color we could use here. Now, a lot of times your brand or illustration team is going to give you these things, but I just thought these would be really interesting to share. I especially like this blue here, so I'm going to keep that. So I don't know. I think they just make me copy it. That's fine. I'll copy it. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here. All right, moving on. Let's just talk about beginning to start up a system like this. The first thing that I always do is create these little swatch components. So I'm going to build one right here. So say I want to have some text here for my named colors. I want to let people know that this is my brand color, my brand pink or something. So let's just say like it's primary color. And maybe we've got a name and we've got a role for it. So we can go ahead and just create 2 bits of text here. And maybe this will be like flamingo. All right, and this is our primary color. We could even use now that we have our type system, we could even start using those things. So we can go here, oh, let's just use our small text here. And here, let's use our bold text here. great. This looks good. I'm into that. All right, and let's just put our little color swatch there. Let's make it a little bigger. Maybe it's like a 64 by 64. It's a little square. Maybe we round those corners off a little bit. Who knows? So I'm going to take these two things. I'm going to use Shift A to auto layout them. I'm going to take those two child elements and left align them. And then I'm going to take this here and I'm going to select that and then hit Shift A again to auto layout these things. So now I've got this little frame. If I start typing in it and I have a second line, it'll just kind of adjust for me, which is cool. We can see the spacing in between. Maybe we want to do that. We're creating utilities for our design system. This isn't going to be published to all your designers. This is here just to help, but I always love creating little helper components along the way. So we're just going to create this into be a component. Boom. What is this going to be? This is going to be my color swatch. And I'm going to put an underscore in front of that, color swatch. Underscore will hide it from being published when we publish this thing, because this is like an internal tool. I'm just going to use it internally. So I might even put that over here. This will be like in my design system components. I'll huck it over here for now. Let's see. Oh, there's the master. All right. And this is the instance of that component. Now I can start duplicating these things and I can just sample another color. Ooh, oh, that was my other brand color. So this is going to be like my secondary color. And this is going to be, who knows, Iris of the Fields. I have no idea what I'm saying, but it sounds great. All right, now the next one, oh, we're going to maybe use these colors. I'll refine these later, but let's just do, we want this kind of cool, this is going to be a peach tone. And this is going to be like an accent color. But we can actually put in our roles here. So we can now use these components if we ever need to fix them or change them or make them bigger. We can do things here. Now, the last thing I really want to say with regards to color schemes is that definitely start off as small and minimal as you can. The other thing that I want to say is get your base colors down, create all the tones and shades that you need. But what I like to do is I feel like so many designers just start off and they're like, okay, well, my background's going to be black, and then my that'll be my dark mode background, and then my light mode is going to be white. Well, let's do an example here. Let's say I want to put a drop shadow on, like maybe it's a dialogue or something like that, and I'm putting that on top, and I've got this cool drop shadow. But guess what? Yes, white does shine against this. It does show here, but the shadow doesn't affect the black because you've used the furthest ends of the spectrum here. You can't get darker than black. So what I always like to do is when I do my darks, so let's just say we're going to do our darkest color. So this is going to be our dark, and we could even put in roles for this stuff here. So this is going to be our dark mode, dark elements or backgrounds. But we can also in here, we can put that, once we create these things into being styles, we can actually put in the notes how to use it. So let's just go ahead and say this is our accent color. Once again, we will grow this up a little bit over the next week so that these things have a little bit more documentation. We'll revisit it. But here, if we just click on style, now we're creating a color style. Let's create a color style. And I want to create, we'll put peach tone. Now, at some point too, we want to give these roles. These aren't just fancy named things. These connect to something, right? Like this isn't just peach tone. This isn't just flamingo. This is our primary color for our brand. This is our call to action color. And we need to make sure that we document that. But since we're just starting, we're just going to start with simple just to get these things saved. We can always come back and edit them later. And this is going to be our iris. I don't even know if this is the color of an iris. I was homeschooled and my mom did like flowers. So I do think that that is correct. All right, so one quick tip on this before we move on to the next thing and get to answers, or get to, answering your questions. One thing is that I just want to share this tip. So let's say you want a dark and you want to start off with like near black. One thing that you can do is you can actually create a secondary fill here. Let's just change it to a solid, or actually linear would be really interesting because we can actually, let's just say we want to have our brand color kind of mixed into the dark. We want everything to feel a little bit like it feels like it's family with the brand color. So I'm going to put a pink here, and I'm also going to put the pink here. And then I'm just going to slide that opacity slider there. Now, watch this. I'm going to, I'm not even going to do it that way. I'm going to draw just a box here. Now, what I can do is if I hit I, and I hold, instead of just clicking, you may have just clicked, when you eyedropper, if I hold this thing, you can now see that I can get things that feel almost like black, but with a little bit, just a little bit of that pink in there. And it's not fully dark. It's not fully black. Maybe the blue works better. Maybe I want to use that color. So let me try this again. All right, once again, I got to slide that back because I sampled that color. Let's try that blue one. I'm going to hold I, and I'm going to like slide up and down. Ooh, kind of a lush, deep indigo. Cool. I'm going to do that. For now, it's always changing. So I'm going to sample this color. I'm going to put in indigo. Oh, what did we do? We had two on top of each other. I'm going to put in indigo, dark. All right, cool. And we can do the same, of course, with our light color schemes. I think this is far enough that we're going to go with colors, but we're going to organize this more. We're going to go further. But remember always, we can go ahead and create this into a style. Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong button. And we're going to put our indigo here. And we're going to demonstrate further as we start developing this design system. We're going to demonstrate further of how we can start using things like slash naming in here. So we might be able to be like UI elements or more like brand or illustrative elements and do a slash here. Trust me, it's going to be cool when we get done with it. So here's a little base color scheme for us right now that we've created. All right, I think I have time for some questions. I do want to talk really quickly about just a base responsive grid that we can use, and then the concept of a spacer element, and then I think we'll be done for today. But Azra, do we have any questions? I'd love to get to those first.
Yeah, we do. Let's go through and see. Raji, if you don't mind sharing the color plugins with everybody again, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
And Anton had a question. Is it possible to import Adobe color swatch libraries?
Anton, hey buddy, how you doing? I've not done that. I'm not sure the format. There might be a plugin out there, but I would love to maybe talk to me offline and we can try to figure something out because yeah, you might have a lot of swatches in there and want to bring those in. So, and I don't want you to just have to sample. I feel like that's a pain in the ass.
Along the library route, how do you connect external libraries with design systems to a separated Figma file?
Ooh, that's a great question. And we're definitely going to get to it later in the stream. But right now this is in drafts. So the quick answer for you is this is in drafts. And once I move it into a team project, so I need to be on Pro to be on a team project, or it has to be a very small team. I think our free plan allows 2 people. But I need to be able to be on Pro or an org plan. And now I have team libraries available for all my team. And once I do that, I can go to this little menu right here under my title and publish styles and components. And in this way, this will now publish it out to my entire team or org so that they can actually see those things and use those things. And the way then, if I were in another file, so say I'm in a new draft file, that I would want to use those sorts of things, I would go into Assets, click the little team library icon, and now I can bring in whatever it is that I want to bring in. And I would see that here. I would see, oh, here's my blah, 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 you know, Flamingo Indigo library. I want that. And so you could separate them out too if you just want to have a whole colors in one file and a bunch of components in another, or you could just have all of your design system in one library and then just push that out. Or maybe you like bisect that into mobile design library, web design library, and then like global colors, you know, color schemes. So we can get to it later in the stream. That's going to be kind of our last step where we're just like push go. Yeah, I hope that answers for now.
Rosa had a question. What's your opinion about using a method to define the type scale? So things like text small, text medium, text large, and etc. What's your thought on the pros and cons of doing that type of naming convention?
Yeah, so that's how I started my design system that I built for Dribble over a year ago. And the first thing, and I think it's the most important thing, is be in communication with your developers. Bring your developers into the conversation at the beginning. Figma files aren't just, well, not all of them, but Figma files aren't just created just to sit there, right? They're meant to be used and read and consumed, and they're a form of communication. So first thing is bringing your developers. And I did this, and here's what I learned. The whole medium, small, this and that, like design systems are meant to grow and evolve. And so what happens when you start getting in between values? You're like, oh, I need something that's just a bit bigger. So then it's like text small, smallest, text small two, text smaller. Those kinds of naming conventions get a little bit harder to sort of insert values into. So you might work with a system that's like, let's say we're talking about colors, like purple light 10, purple light 20, like associating a number value with that. And the higher the number goes, the lighter it gets, and that way you can insert values into. But I'm all a fan of you and your design team figuring out what's the best naming convention. A lot of times they've thought through this way ahead of you because they're implementing it into code and they kind of know about how these things work. So definitely talk with your development team, and then and come up with a naming convention together. I think it's also still important that no matter what, you need to come up with a naming convention that your designers understand, so that when they're looking through these lists here, they're going to be able to say, oh, I know what a subtitle is, but if you just name it title medium, like there needs to be like a bit of a semantic approach to this no matter what, where you know, and this is why I was saying it wasn't a really good idea just to call this flamingo, because if your designer just supposed to memorize like, oh, flamingo means primary. You need to somehow associate that. So you might have to put that in the name of this watch, flamingo, and then do something like flamingo primary or primary CTA, something like that.
Well,
Thanks for the question, Rosa.
I think we have time for one or two more questions, and then Raji, you can answer the rest of them on Twitter. When do you decide when to top align versus center align in typography? Is that a preference, or do you have a rule of thumb?
It really, really depends. Sorry to give you depends answers. I think that if you're talking about like just base typography and you're talking about laying out a blog article or something like that, I think I'm always doing probably like a bottom align. But if we're talking about something with constraints in a component, Figma has really changed the game and the way that we really think about typography in relation to, like, remember, typography is coming from like age-old practices on print, right? And they're trying to align things to baselines so that they all line up. Whereas like now we're putting things into components in input boxes, and we want to say like, well, I want it center aligned because I want it to sit in the middle of a text box. And so just the way that I think about stuff like that really changes depending on the application and the use.
Cool, thanks, Raji. And as always, font sizes keep coming up. What's your take on using odd numbers and font sizes?
My take is that because I come from a development past and I know that these things need to be developed in a way that typically they're using mathematics to describe these things, and they're always dividing things by 2. What I like to do is always work with that sort of base of like 2, 4, 6, 8, like we're not, sorry, 2, 4, 8, 16, that sort of a system, because I feel like then when you divide it by 2, there's no half pixels. And coming from the old web and where half pixels really used to matter, now they matter only a little bit. I just like to keep everything even. Like having a developer work with like margins that are like 12.80 pixels or something like that is tough, and it's not very clean. So I try to keep it as clean as possible.
Cool, I think that's the time we have for questions today, but I'm sure you can answer the rest of them on Twitter.
Yep, and I'm going to drop one link real quick. It's something that I didn't get to on the stream, but this is just a responsive layout grid, and this is what we're going to be using for our design system. So if y'all want to look at that, it's just a material design resource. That way you can look at, you can see how we think about grids now. Grids used to be fixed, in the future. And now we're thinking about grids more as like a flexible thing, because our viewports are not the same. There's a million different devices out there, and we have to find some way to figure out how to do this. So we're using a flexible grid on this system. Thanks everyone for coming.
So thanks, Raji.
All right, and as usual, I'm gonna go ahead and post this. I don't care how ugly it is and what we've created, I'm just gonna post it. It's a work in progress. So I'm gonna post it to that figma.com/@Raji. Thanks so much.